Perfect. We are recording, and today is a day that many have asked for, and so I'm kind of glad that we put this together for everyone. Today, we're going to talk about that 20-day report, or what some people call the 20-day after Labor Day report, or some people call the fall extract. Many names for it, but it is a very important snapshot of data that the state does across districts in the state for multiple reasons, and we'll go into each one of those. I will start out, even though I'm not going to show any kid data in the examples of the screenshots that I took from AIM because we do not want to violate FERPA. In case I have to jump into the sandbox of PowerSchool to answer any questions, I always start with a disclaimer that if we do show any information in there, it is all fake students. It is in a pilot sandbox server. No students or real data is shared, so any likeness to anyone is purely coincidental. Just will say again that this is being recorded and this will be shared out. So if anybody has to step away or cannot attend, we will all have this information because it is very good information to have. Now, there is not a sandbox server that we can share of anything with AIM. So as I go through showing you what's inside of here, we have blurred any identifying information, but it will give you all the screenshots so we can really understand this. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about how do you even know that the 20-day report exists? Well, there's a couple of avenues. One, a lot of the sections here at the department report this information out. You'll see it in Midweek Matters. You know, there were memo years ago talking about our big collection windows, which are the third Friday in October, the third Friday in June. But one of the things, since I am coming from the data information side as far as PowerSchool is concerned, is that we do have a student information system data calendar that if you are new to a district and you have no clue what is pulled at the state level or when you should be doing things inside of PowerSchool to make sure you have your data good and nice for reporting purposes for the state, we do have a calendar out there. We put kind of the big things. And if you look at October's date inside of here, you'll see that we have highlighted here that this is when our 20-day snapshot is always taken, and it is always taken the third Friday in October. So nothing has changed from this year. There won't be another memo re-announcing that that is when it is because the notice was sent in the first one years back. And so we put in here things that you want to do as a checks and balances, a checklist for districts to make sure you have all the information clean for this 20-day snapshot. Now we're going to go through the guts of this 20-day snapshot, what exactly it is, where it's at, and kind of help you understand this. And when it came to who all was invited to this webinar, guys, everybody. CSFOs, because this talks about funding, and sometimes people don't understand where do those numbers come from? How are they generated? What does it look like? I want to go into the guts and really down to the bones of this report so that you know how to check for things and to make sure you're getting the most accurate representation for your district. So if you do not have the link to the data calendar, and I will put this link to this presentation in the chat at the end of the presentation, and it'll also be included in the recording that is sent out. But there is a link here to the data system calendar. It is a Google Doc that if you want to, you can make a copy of this so that you can adjust it for your district if you have extra things, but it is a month by month. And see, in June, it talks about getting ready for that state reporting in June. That's the end of the year. So yes, if you do not have this link, it is linked inside of this presentation for you, which is great. So what is this 20-day report? Where is this snapshot actually found? Well, it is inside of AIM, which is the state reporting portal. So it is in a specific tile called Official State Collections. That is where you will find the 20-day snapshot. That is where you will find the end of year or the 9-month snapshot. They live together. It's just a drop-down choice between the two. One of the biggest questions that I get about this 20-day report is who gets access? And pretty much it is all up to the districts. There is nothing that we can do, anyone here at the State Department, to grant any of your users access to this. It is all controlled inside of the Education Directory. When you are on the official or excuse me, the AIM dashboard, and you're looking at the official state collections tile. In fact, if you look at any of the tiles on AIM, notice down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the tile, there is a question mark. If you click that question mark, it will pop out a box that will tell you the data owner for that box. So a lot of times I'll get emails that say, hey, Stacy, the career tech placement tile is not showing something correctly. Who do I contact to ask questions about this or to get help with this? This is where you find contact information of who that tile data owner is. Below it, it also tells you any predefined groups that get access to this tile and what specific role you can assign to someone in the education directory to grant them access to this tile. Now, one thing that I think is very important to understand, because I've heard hesitancy in districts about granting access to this tile to people in the districts. This is a view-only tile. This tile does not allow anyone to make any changes to any of your data at the state level. This just is a view of what we are seeing come out of PowerSchool for your district. So if that has been the hesitancy, because I have heard some people say, hey, we're not giving our principals access to this tile, that we don't want to do that because we don't want them to change any of the data. This does not allow them to change it. I would question anybody who did not give principals, because this is who knows the culture of the school, knows their students, to know if this data is right, and this is where your funding is coming from. So it's a really big thing that eyes need to be on. Anybody who in the education directory is listed as an assistant superintendent or a superintendent will have this tile automatically assigned to them. Anybody outside of those two group markings in the education directory can be granted access to this tile by giving them the app access permission. So when you go into education directory, there's staff positions and then there's application permissions. You click on the application permission tab. If you give them one of these two, they either can be allowed to view the entire system or they can view the school. And a lot of times that's down to how you have them in there, if you have them connected to district office or if you have them connected to a school. So you get to decide who has access within your district. Timelines to consider about this very big report. When is it pulled? Can't stress it enough. It is always pulled the third Friday in October. Now, a lot of times people get down to the weeds and go, well, tell me exactly when it's pulled. So the state takes its final snapshot when the replication pull occurs in its natural occurrence from the district. So every night, the state does a replication pull that begins at 7 o'clock Central Time. So if you have your data in and corrected by that time, then it will be included in that snapshot. I've had districts before that said, well, I fixed it at 9 o'clock at night. That's after our pull. It is not going to be included. So that's also important to know if you're going in finding errors in data and you want to correct your data. If you're one of those night owls that says, okay, I'm going to go and work on these tonight, and you're working on them at 9 o'clock at night and you expect to go into work the next day, go to AIM and see your changes, you're not going to see it. That's why a lot of times if you put in emails to the section owners to say, hey, I updated this student's withdrawal code, why aren't they coming out of cohort? Or I updated this attendance record, why is it not showing this? Sometimes the response is, well, sometimes it takes 24 to 48 hours for it to update. That's why sometimes. It's all depending on when that data is in there and where it's in that pull process. Who is included in this 20-day report? It is any student with an active enrollment record during that 20-day reporting window. So this is our first inclination of us understanding what this 20-day means. There's a lot of districts who believe that the 20-day report is a snapshot that is taken on the 20th day after Labor Day in the calendar, and that's not accurate. It's an entire window of 20 days, and we look at all data that falls within that 20-day window. And we look at any student that has an active enrollment during that window. Now, what do I mean by an active enrollment record? Here is a screenshot of the enrollment history screen of our Mickey Mouse right here. I'm looking at the current enrollment, or it could be down in previous enrollments. If this student was enrolled with you at any point in time from the day after Labor Day to your 20th in session calendar day that you have set up inside of PowerSchool. So there is a calendar configuration that every one of your schools has to set up inside of PowerSchool. Part of that setup is that you have to mark it as an in-session day and a membership value day of 1 for it to be counted as an in-session day. We had some districts that the day after Labor Day was an in-service day. So their counts didn't start that day because it was not an in-session day. So Monday is Labor Day, Tuesday is an in-service day, Wednesday is the first day back for the kiddos. So Wednesday starts their 20-day, and it's all 20 days inside of there that are in session for the students. That's where the 20 days comes from. One thing that you have to consider with this snapshot is not only does it take data from the SIS, but it takes data that has been exported from special programs over into the SIS. So I always like to give caution that if anybody is looking at their data and they see any issues with any of the special education or special programs information, that remember you need to put another day in there as to when that data is corrected and move back to AIM for you. So issues in special programs do take overnight to feed back into the SIS. So if you are working on correcting errors and you notice you still have an error present the day of the actual snapshot and you are working with PowerSchool support to get it corrected, you will need to request that they do a manual export or move of the data, push the data over to SIS so it can be captured in that 7 o'clock replication pool that we do throughout the districts. Once you gain access to the official state collections tile, what data can you actually see inside of here? Well, there are 3 main areas you can look at, and you have to click on this attendance bar. So each one of these are selectors. If you click on the attendance, I'm going to call it a tab, you will see 3 choices here. You will see attendance collection, you will see collection errors, and you will see collection summary. We're going to go through all 3 of these so that you understand what you're looking at. I will say that once you click into this, the first thing that it actually pops up when you populate your school year, system, and collection cycle that you're looking at is it will actually pop up that attendance collection. And so you see a bunch of student names and people don't know what to do with that. Sometimes they don't understand that you have to click up here in this top attendance area to get these other choices. So let's go through what these choices are and what they actually give us. And I'm going to jump to what I'm going to consider the most important one that everyone needs to lay their eyes on first, which is this attendance collection summary right here. So when you go through and you choose the school year, which by the way, you can go look at previous year's data if you need to look at changes from one year to the next. So I would choose, if I'm going right now to get ready for my snapshot that's coming up here in the upcoming week, I would choose 24-25. You would choose your school system. If you're at district office, you would choose your district office. So if I were Baldwin County, I would choose Baldwin County and school would be Baldwin County. But if I needed to look at just one school in the district, because maybe that's all I have access to, then your school choice might just be a school within the district and not the whole district purview. You can cut and slice and dice this however you need to. So choose your year, choose your system, choose your school. And then you get 4 options for the summaries that you can view. You can see an ADM summary, which is pretty much what everybody likes to go see because that's got your ADM numbers and that's where our funding models come from. So everybody lays eyes on that. There's also a grade level summary, a race, ethnicity, and gender summary, and a subpopulation summary. So you will choose which one of those views you want to look at. And if people are wondering what these views are, one thing that I equate it to is the old school report for those of you who are around back in iNow days that your CSFO absolutely loved. When you ran that fall extract, at the back of that report was this little chart, and it gave you your ADM and enrollment numbers for all of your schools and even broken down by grade level. And they always wanted to go look at that because you look at it for your funding, for your teacher units, for all that fun stuff. This is what it is. I'm going to say in quotes, in PowerSchool, because that report is not inside of PowerSchool. It is inside of official state collections now. So if you want that old school chart, which this one gives you so much more than the one in iNow did, this is where you'll need to go. So you're going to choose the summary that you want to look at, and then you're going to choose the collection. Do you want to look at this for the 20-day, or do you want to look at the 9-month report of this? Now, guys, I will say that this is in real time. So let's talk about the timeline of school starting. If you want to start looking at this, because literally the day after your first day of school, data starts populating here inside of AIM. So let's just pretend that your school year started August 1st. So if I go into August 1st and we have school, and then that data replicates to the state at night, and now it's August 2nd, I want to go into AIM and see, did last night's data go in there? What do we look like as a district? When I come to this page, I'm going to choose, my year, my school, my system, my summary, and then I'm going to get to collection. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, let me look at what's happening in my 20-day. And they click on 20-day and it's zeros. And we kind of freak out a little bit. But you have to remember, what's the definition of the 20-day report? It's the data within that 20-day window, the 20 in-session days after Labor Day. Is the first day of school in that 20-day window after Labor Day? No, it's not. So your fall 20-day report is going to be zeros until we hit that window and this area starts populating data. However, it is part of the 9-month report, because the 9-month report is exactly that. It reports every day, every in-session day throughout your entire calendar. So you could come the second day of school, look at your 9-month report, and start seeing your data populating in real time, or minus 1 day, I should say, in there. So keep in mind that you can always start checking the 9-month from the second day of school, and the 20-day is going to be the day after your first of the 20-day count after Labor Day. So let's dive into these views, and we're going to go head first with the ADM summary. So if I were to choose ADM summary and fall 20-day, I'm going to be presented with a list of schools, or maybe it's just my school if I'm a principal and that's all I have access to, or it can be that I'm the district office accountability person or the CSFO and I need to see the whole district. Then I'm going to be listed a list of schools. So I have randomly picked a district inside of the state. And so what you would see over here to the left would be all of the schools' names. So I'd have the top tile would be the entire district, or what they call all schools, top row. The other rows would be the rest of the schools. First column is school days. So in this 20-day report, it tells you how many of the 20 days you have gone through in the calculations. Well, it is October 7th. So yes, we are well past the 20 days after Labor Day. So I'm now looking at the data for all 20 of the days in this collection cycle. So let's say it was 2 days after Labor Day. Okay, so Labor Day on a Monday, Tuesday, and it's Wednesday, and you've had no in-service days. If I were to open this up on that Wednesday, how many school days would be listed right here? Y'all, this is going to be participation in the chat. If I open this up on the Wednesday after Labor Day and I've had no in-service days, how many school days would be listed right here if I were to look at it? I love how we have the debate between 1 or 2. So if I look at it on Wednesday, it's replicating Tuesday night's data, which is how many days? 1 day. And so you can see how many days in the cycle and where you're at with this. So everybody should be able to go here now. And if you look, if you have AIM pulled up in another window beside me and are going along, you should see your 20 days right there. Now let's go to these headers, which also, by the way, I want to start with, do you notice that these blocks are in green? A lot of times when people go in here the first time, they have a little bit of a heart attack moment, because when they look at these, they might see zeros across the board right here and they think they have no data even though it's showing the school days. One thing I always say is read your headers, because notice what is right here in the center of this green area. It says pre-K. So one functionality you must keep in mind about AIM and official state collections is scrolling right, because sometimes you have to scroll right to see everything. So if I were to just click into this, looking at this ADM summary, I'm going to have my schools and I'm going to see green to begin with. I do not see any K-12 data yet. So what I have first are my school days. So we got that. Students. What are these numbers right here? So these are my pre-K numbers for any student, any pre-K student who was enrolled at any point in time during the 20 days. So across all these headings, students currently enrolled, free, reduced, paid, free, reduced percent, pupil days, STC, attended days, absence, ADM, ADA. Most people, yeah, they want to verify their pre-K, but they're like, okay, well, if this is pre-K, where do I get to the K-12? Because I really want to look at that to kind of go through what these numbers, since we'll have more numbers here. What I would do is scroll right. If you scroll right, you're going to move from a green area to a blue area. When you get into the blue, you are actually looking at your K-12 student data. So now I'm seeing more numbers here. So whatever school I was looking at, when I was back here in my pre-K numbers, these schools don't have any pre-K students. Whatever these schools are in this district do have some pre-K students inside there. These don't. When I look over here, K-12, yep, I've got kids here. So again, same headers for pre-K and for K-12. Same exact headers. What do they all mean now? So students. This is how many students, the total count of any student enrolled at any point in time in that 20-day window. So you take your first in-session calendar day all the way to your 20th. And again, if you had a day that you were out at any point in time and you've marked that calendar day as not in session with the membership type in PowerSchool, then that day's data doesn't count. It's all of them that you have marked in session. So any kid that enrolled, even if it was just a one-day enrollment, they came with you, were in school one day, left the next day. That kid is in that count right there. What does currently enrolled students mean? Okay, depends on when you look at this report. So currently enrolled students is the current enrollment total as of the last day in the reporting cycle, if it's the 20-day and it has passed, or if I'm in that window, it's the total count that were enrolled with me yesterday. So let's see if I can make that make sense. When you get past and you are at the day where you've got all 20 days, you know how we looked at right here that we had the 20 school days? We're clear the window. This means these are your counts at each of the schools of the kids you had enrolled on that 20th day of the window. So this is any kid enrolled at any point in time in the window. These are the kids who were enrolled on the 20th day. So what does this mean in the discrepancy right here for this school? If I had 427 and on the last day I had 423. Well, that means at some point in time during the 20-day window, there were 4 kids who were enrolled somewhere and have withdrawn by the time the 20-day got there, that 20th day. Okay? So unless you had no withdrawals whatsoever, don't expect those to match. And a lot of people expect those to match, or they expect it to match what you're pulling in PowerSchool right this second, but it's not going to. This one, look at what it was on the 20th day of your window. Now, for the 9-month report, because that is calculated every single day, if you were to have chosen the 9-month report and you're looking at this ADM, and I'm looking at it today, currently enrolled would be how many students you had enrolled in your district or school as of last night's poll. Whereas students would be anybody enrolled within the whole school year. Okay. Again, back to the students right here. When I'm looking at the 20-day report, let's say I have a kid that was enrolled August 1st to August 15th. They stayed with me half a month and then they moved, they went to another district. Should I expect to see that student counted anywhere in these numbers right here? Throw me in the chat. What do you think? If I had a kid enrolled from the 1st of August to the 15th of August, should I expect to see them represented here? I'm getting some no's. That's absolutely correct. Not until after the day of Labor Day. Now, why is that? We know, guys, that there's tons of transition. There's tons of transition in the state. About Labor Day and after is when everybody gets stabilized, and that's just the point in time that the window has been set. It was set long before I came along and many of the others who work here came along. Okay? But those are the kids that you're looking at from that day after Labor Day to that 20th day. So hopefully that helps you understand what these two sets of numbers are. So students, any kid during the window, this one, how many the last day of the window. And then the others kind of make sense to you. So now we're looking at currently enrolled who were free. So of these kids, last day, how many were free? How many were reduced? How many were free and reduced? How many were paid? And then giving you that percentage. All right, pupil days. What is the pupil day going to be a reflection of? Well, that's going to be how many students times the number of the days. Well, the multiplier here should be the same for everybody in the 20-day window because we're looking at 20 specific days in the calendar year. So what would be the number of students times 20 to give you your overall pupil days that attendance should be there? Now, if you're looking at it at the 9-month report, well, it depends on how many calendar days you have. Some people have 180 days, some have 175, it's 178. So it'd be that number times for the 9-month. But for this one, it's static because we're looking at that 20-day window. Charles, students who are enrolled part of the window will not get the 20 multiplier. Okay, so that's your full-time enrollees through that multiplier. STC days. Okay, what does this mean? So we know that we have some students in the districts who go to our specialized treatment centers. So this one is specifically calculating off of the days entered from the non-traditional student types on the student record. So remember, when a student goes to a specialized treatment center, there's two places that record should be updated: on the non-traditional student type and on that actual STC page, their start and end dates. And we even put errors out there if those aren't aligning. That's where these count. So whatever district I'm looking at right now, either one doesn't have any kids who've gone to an STC, or two, they did and they have not updated that non-traditional student type, and we're not getting any counts here. So here's where you need to understand your culture in your school and understand what to look at here to know if I see something with a bunch of zeros, my heart is going to skip a little beat to go, wait a minute, are we really a nothing district? Do we have nothing right there to be represented? Only you can answer that question. That's not something we can look at the state to see that this is an anomaly in the data. That's something you would have to know. The next one, attendance and absent days. So again, this one, make sure that you look at these. You should see numbers populating, especially this. Guys, can't say this enough. Absence days. I would question any district, any school that had a 0 in this column. Because if any of y'all have figured out how to get perfect attendance at your school, we all want to learn from you. So if you see zeros, you need to start checking your setup. And about a month ago, I did start contacting some districts as we were getting ready for the 20-day to let you know, hey, your calendar days are wrong inside of your districts, or you forgot to mark your in-session days, or you forgot to put your membership days of 1, because we noticed some districts who the entire district had a 0, or a school had a 0. And we're getting those ahead of you so that you can make sure we get a good snapshot for this 20-day report. You need to be laying eyes on this on a periodic basis as well. So you want to make sure that you are looking to see that you are accumulating your absence days here at the state, because it can be called into question if you have none here and it shows zeros. Your ADM, your average daily membership of that 20-day window. So that ADM is your average number of enrollments during that window. It is not of the whole school year. For the 9-month, it is of the whole school year, but this is your ADM specifically within that 20-day window. This is what everybody salivates for, because this is what your CSFO is going to look at. This is going to be what the athletic association's looking at by grade. This is where we start talking about funding and get it in there. ADA is average daily attendance. So on average, how many students are attending school? Now, these are not percentages, but you could do the division very easily to get that percentage that you are used to from that old report inside of iNow. But it's really these count numbers that we're looking at, so it's why it's displayed in this format. And then this tells you the day that this data was generated inside of here. Sometimes people will ask, hey, Stacy, is there a replication issue with AIM, or is there something going on with AIM? I tell people, always look at the dates, because multiple screens inside of AIM will show you those date generated. And if it's like 3 days behind, then yes, that tells you there's some replication issues with AIM, and we're probably aware of it. So that is one thing that you hard and fast want to look at. Always keep an eye on this during your 20-day. These data points can change up until the snapshot, even though it's a fixed window within those 20 days. One thing that I have seen in the past for all of the districts on here who are online enrollment customers, when you enroll a student today, okay, here's another one where I want you to put in chat. If I enroll a student today, should I see them have any impact on my 20-day report? If I enroll a student today, should I see any impact on my 20-day report? I'm seeing a bunch of no's, and that is correct. So if you're saying no, should I expect to see any error on that student in the errors list for my 20-day report? Again, that's another no. So if you are seeing errors on that kid, because I had some districts who reached out last year, and they're saying, Stacy, we're chasing rabbits here, because every time we enroll a kid, yeah, when I enroll them, they don't have their county, they don't have their this, they don't have their that, and I've got to put that information in, but they're not in the 20-day window. Why is it impacting my 20-day window? That tells me your online enrollment system is enrolling these students and using the first day of school as the date of enrollment, which would then put them through the window and counts them in here. That shouldn't be happening. Once you get into the school year, if you're using online enrollment, the date that they use as that beginning date for that record should be today's date, not the first day of school. Because this is how some people have, how do I say this? This is how some people have gotten some kids in sticky situations as far as counting for funding or not when they actually weren't there. And we're going to talk about what makes that error happen in a little while. So make sure, if you are an online enrollment customer, that as you're going in now, if you enroll a kid today, what's it put as their start date? And when I say start date, let me back all the way up to this screenshot right here, this enrollment entry date. This should not back all the way up to August if I enroll somebody today. So if it is, and your people are having to go in and manually update this to today once they get in there, you need to have a conversation with your online enrollment product and get them to fix that, because it will cause you to chase yourself after your numbers in here to get it right. All right, so that is our ADM summary. So the next choice that we have in that list of summaries that we can look at is our grade level summary. So I know that I can see that ADM. I want to now see this grade level. So if I'm looking at, my grade level summary, it's going to be exactly what it says. It's the same information, but it's going to give you, and I didn't pull all the schools in this sample district that I used. I just pulled the top one that says all schools, but it gives you all of your grade levels. So grade, and I know we see 97, 98, 99, but that's the -1, -2, and -3, our pre-K and our services kids. So 97's a -3, 98's a -2, 99 is a -1. We just hadn't updated the labels from the iNow conversion, or excuse me, -1, -2, -3 this way. PK. Kindergarten, first grade all the way through grade 15, because remember, after grade 12 we have 13, 14, and 15, which are special ed services only students who continue on after graduation or after grade 12. For every one of those grade levels, you're going to see the following pieces of information. You're going to see enrollment count, you're going to see ADM, you're going to see ADA, and you're going to see your percent attendance. So you're able to see those four big items off of the grade level. So if I need to know my 7th graders ADM, my 12th graders ADM, to start thinking about teacher units that you know you'll be funded for next year, that's where you'll be able to see that grade level summary. And again, you can see it for all of your schools. So if you go to that grade level summary, you're going to see all schools, and then you're going to see school A, B, C, D, E, big chart, not just one line like I'm showing right here. And again, scroll right. So it's going to start with all the schools in green, then you keep scrolling right to see the ADM, then scroll right again to see ADA, and scroll right again to see your percent of attendance. Going through our next choice is the race, ethnicity, and gender summary. So again, with this, you're going to see a long list. It's going to start with all schools. So we're going to look at it from a district level. And then you'll see this same chunk of all of the different ethnicities and gender combinations for each one of your schools. And it's by grade level. So, and it's tons. I did not screenshot all of these because you can scroll right to see them once you get in there. But here's just an example. So here is my enrollment data. So for this district that I happen to be in, if I needed to know how many Hispanic white females I have in 7th grade, well, here's where I see it. So for district, I have 4 Hispanic white females. I have 20 Black or African American males in 1st grade. Now, hopefully some of y'all are looking at this going, oh, this is great, because we have to answer this really big report called the CRDC report from the feds that asks these exact same things right here. A lot of your CRDC stuff can be pulled from this information inside of AIM. And you're able to see enrollment numbers, pupil days, absence days, free, reduced, ADA, ADM, and percent attendance. Again, all you have to do is scroll right. Also, by the way, I should note that for each one of these spreadsheets, I don't have it in my screenshot, but there is an export button. You can export these spreadsheets out so that you can then work with it all in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever you want to, so that you see in here. And then our 4th option inside of this summary is our subpopulation summary. Now, this gives you lots of interesting information that you really want to keep your eye on. So all of these are shown by scrolling right. So you will be listing your school's name. So you'll see all the district information, and it's separated by grade. So each line is going to be a different grade level. So the first thing I'm going to do is every line is see the entire district for grade kindergarten 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's going to start with the school. So school A, grade 1, 2, 3. School B, grade 1, 2, 3. And it goes all the way through them of all of this information right here. So you're going to see, again, currently enrolled, which is going to be students enrolled as of the last day of that snapshot, all enrolled, membership days, absence days, attendance days. Again, keep an eye on your attendance. How many kids do you have marked to reside out of district? So on that demographic screen, there is that checkbox for students who reside outside of the physical location boundaries of your district. How many you have marked? ADM, ADA, each one of your race and ethnic subpopulations. If I were to keep scrolling right, I see down here how many have been marked Hispanic, how many females, males, how many economically disadvantaged, free, reduced, paid, how many students are on direct cert, by grade level, by district, by school, how many homeless students, how many EL students, how many foster, migrant, immigrant, spec ed, enrichment, gifted, how many full-time virtual. So remember, we have that learning preference on the digital learning preferences page for a student. If you've marked a student to be a full-time virtual student, for those of you who have those programs, How many are remote students? How many are hybrid? So those are the three choices of how you get to place students. And this tells you how many, again, by grade level through the district or by grade level for the school that you have marked for your district. How many are military affiliated? So again, on the demographic screen inside of PowerSchool at the bottom are state reporting fields about military that you should be entering on your students. How many have been identified as a career tech student? How many athletes have been marked for your school that we are seeing inside of AIM? So everybody who always says, hey, we have an issue about Dragonfly and it's not, Dragonfly is not seeing our athletes. If we're seeing them here, if you're seeing numbers here, they're being sent to Dragonfly. How many were alternate assessment participants? How many of your students are in a Title I school or a school-wide or targeted assistance has been marked? And again, the date that this was generated. So a lot of times people will ask, Stacy, is there a report to pull that will give me how many Native American students or how many spec ed students or how many gifted or how many Title I for this and that for certain grants? A lot of that can be gathered from these reports right here, but a lot of people just don't know that these reports actually exist inside of that official state collections tile and that all of this data is included inside of that snapshot that we take. So even though our key is a lot of times on ADM because we talk funding, all of these are actually accounted for inside of here. Erica, so to get an idea of the 20-day labor day total enrollment count is best to look at ADM. It depends, Erica, because you might want to look at currently enrolled to kind of look as of that last day, but your average counts to kind of give you that best look at your district is the ADM. And you ask, how are duplicate errors considered? So if it's an error that's defined in there, those are actually not counted in these totals, and we're going to talk about that in a minute when we get to the error report that you can get. So for the 20-day, one of the things that is different in the 20-day fall reporting versus the 9-month, it's almost like the kids have to qualify to be in this 20-day report. You have to have all of their data in and all of their data in accurately before they will hit this report for your 20-day numbers. So if you have a ton of students that you just haven't gotten around to putting their addresses in, so the county's not there and you've got a hard error on them, they're not being considered in these numbers at all. So you might be showing way low numbers. And I've had that before. I've had principals to call to say, Stacy, I'm looking at my enrollment numbers and my ADN numbers, and this is not right. I'm missing like 100 kids. And so I say, hey, flip over to the error page. Do you have lots of errors? Oh, yeah, I've got like 400 errors in here. Yeah, those kids are not counting for you. So you've got to get those fixed so that your numbers will come up and be most accurate inside of here. What is the difference in the fall reporting data and the student data tile versus the official data tile? So student data is, it's almost like looking at your 9-month report because you're doing that look or the snapshot look of yesterday's numbers. So student data is just refresh data each day as we pulled last night's replication of your data from PowerSchool. Fall reporting is looking at that data just within that 20-day window. Okay. All right, continuing on. Once we know to get into the official state collections tile and we know to go look at that ADM summary, because that's going to be my big overviews, what am I supposed to do? Now that I know the numbers are there, what do I do about them? What do I look to see might I have issues? And this is one that we're talking about right here, the errors. So remember how at the beginning I said when you click on attendance, there's 3 areas to check: attendance collection errors, and collection summary. We just went through the walkthrough of the attendance collection summary. One of the things is make sure you look to see if you have any attendance collection errors, because if you have an error, those kids will not be recorded in those summary numbers. So if you click on attendance collection errors, you're presented with the screen and scroll over to the right, you will see the list of errors. Now, again, I've not shown any student names right here, but over to the left would be the student name, the student number to say, hey, Mickey Mouse, student 123 has an error because the race code must be a valid code. Well, sometimes the error data over here is easy to distinguish and sometimes it's not. Like, what does this N mean? It could mean that it's not set. We've seen issues where online enrollment we're bringing one code, but then, you know, when the kid transferred from another district, the parents had marked a different code, and so now you got two codes, and you can't have two codes. Those should be two or more, and you got to figure out which one is the right code. Could be many of those. Missing home language. So if you've given the home language survey and you've not put that data inside of PowerSchool yet, that is a hard error. We have to have home languages on the students in this snapshot. Anomalies. There's a whole list. In fact, there is a presentation, and I've got the link right here. I'm just going to click on it to take us out of this. We have a presentation that the PowerSchool coaches are doing this month. In fact, there was one this morning on the state collection errors, but they do it all throughout September and October to get you used to looking at and cleaning up these errors that go through how to find the errors, what to do with the errors, where to look for the errors, explanations of the errors. So it's good to have that link so that you can say, all right, well, what does this mean has overlapping enrollments? Go find that slide in that presentation. It will tell you what you need to do or where you need to look to get that created. And again, or get that fixed. And again, make sure that as you are looking at these errors right here, that you are getting them cleaned up, because you do not want those to not get included in your accounts for funding. We want to make sure that that is all taken care of for you. All right, what else do you need to do besides what we're going to say is the obvious, which is checking for errors and getting those cleaned up? Check your ADA and ADM. Do you see zeros on those summary pages? If you do, start checking possible setup issues. This could be your calendar. Most notorious is the in-session days being missing checked, or having a membership type not of one. Some people will put in session but forget to update the membership value, excuse me, not type, value from a 0 to a 1 so that it counts. Look at your FTE assignments. Have you changed your FTE? Some people have done that and named a new one and didn't get it assigned to the students, or they're missing an FTE, so it can't give a daily attendance value to then give us that accurate record inside of here. Looking at any of your attendance setup, if you've made any changes or if you've opened a new school, especially to make sure that you didn't miss something in that setup, because it's very easy to do. We're all human and there are multiple steps to attendance. Here's what I want to call the biggest thing that we have to make sure that we do: our no-shows. It is very important that you ensure all of your no-shows have been withdrawn from PowerSchool before this snapshot is taken. Okay. One of the places that I have seen no-shows hide are students who are in there but don't have a schedule. It's really easy to find no-shows when they're attached to a student schedule, because teachers typically go, hey, Stacy's been on my roster all year and has been absent every single day and has not come to school. Should they be withdrawn? That's an absolute yes. Yes, they should have been. So when they're on a teacher's roster, you have somebody to notify you. But if they're not on a teacher's roster, nobody's no one to let you know this kid has rolled in here and you need to go try to find them. There's actually a report inside of PowerSchool. It's in the system reports. It's called the section enrollment audit. If you go to data and reporting, reports, system reports, and scroll down to this membership and enrollment areas kind of toward the bottom of the page, click on this section enrollment audit. It will bring you a report that'll list you students who are enrolled in school but are not in any classes. Which also, there is something to name that will say students have no schedule. That will allude you to these as well, so you can find them in AIM as well. But these kids need to be questioned. Why do we have them in here and they're not in any classes? Now, if a kid was just enrolled yesterday and you hadn't put them in classes, that's not going to impact your AIM. But if they've been like this, they were enrolled at the very beginning of school and don't have a class, well, why is Mr. DeAndre here enrolled in this school but not in any classes? Or should he been no-show? Did he just roll over? Did somebody not do a summer withdrawal so he rolled over in here and we didn't no-show him out? If so, that needs to be done immediately. Because here's the thing. If you do not no-show your kids prior to that snapshot for that, so that they get out of that 20-day window, and you realize, let's say in December, and y'all, we have it happen every year in a district, come December, so somebody goes, oh, Stacy forgot, yeah, we just discovered she's not been here and is actually active, and you withdraw them out and you no-show them back to the beginning of school, that is automatically going to trigger another error for your 9-month report to say, hey, you had a student captured in your 20-day report and they're not on the 9-month report. And the 9-month report shows any kid who had an enrollment at any point in time during the school year. So they were there when we did 20-day in October, but they're not there now. What did you do? Because you got funded for them. And so you don't want those errors at all, because I have people who will get those errors and then email me saying, how do I fix it? Well, you can't fix that error because it's showing that you made an error in your reporting of the 20-day report, and it can't be fixed at that point once the snapshot is done. Someone just asked, what if you have students showing enrolled but not in classes who are located at your alternative school? What do we do? Do they have a schedule at one of your schools somewhere in the district? If they do, then you're good. You know that some of these could be potential, but doesn't necessarily mean they are. If they're all remote enrolled somewhere else, then yes, if I'm checking this from the high school, but they're enrolled in the alternative school through remote enrollment, then I'm going to ignore that because they are accounted for. But again, do your due diligence to make sure you are understanding where they are at. Another note, check school $49.99. Sometimes we will see no-shows that should have been processed in $49.99 because those students maybe stopped receiving services and maybe this spec ed person forgot to withdraw them out. I've seen that happen. This actually happens more often than you would think, but it does happen. So make sure if you have a student that's one of those special ed pre-K services students that the parents maybe refuse services or they just stop getting services, they test out of services, and it's before, the traditional kindergarten years, that you do withdraw those out and they don't just stay rolling over in $49.99 after year after year after year. The actual attendance collection. This is how you actually dig into your data. Okay. This is also the screen that pops up when you just go into the official state collections tile. So we kind of went through this backwards because I go with how we need to kind of focus our eyes and then go for the prize is what I'm going to say. So we started at the high level with the summary to look at our numbers overall, our ADM, our counts to see do we have any big issues we need to fix. Then we go into the errors to see all of the specific issues per kid that we need. Oh, the screen sharing. Yeah, we've been in here for an hour. 1 second, guys. Let me share my screen again. WebEx likes to have fun with me. All right, can y'all see me again now on my screen? Perfect, thank you. So we've identified big errors if we have like zeros across a summary. We've identified errors on a per kid basis. Now let's go into the actual list of all the kids from that 20-day window and what we're going to see. This is where you become a detective and you dig. Oh, click back over here. So if you choose your district, your school, and your fall 20-day, and you're looking at the student detail, you're first going to be presented with your list of the year you're looking at. It'll say fall collection, your system. It'll list the school name, the student's name, first name, last name, all of this identifiable stuff that I'm not going to show. So it's going to give all your basic demographics. Then to see all of the good stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff, we're about to start scrolling right. So everything, the key is to scroll right on this screen right here. So if I were to scroll right, and again, not showing any names, I would start seeing this kind of data. So on a student by student, so if I've got 5,000 kids who are being collected in your snapshot, all 5,000 are going to be inside of here. And even those that are not in the snapshot are going to be in here. But any kid who had an enrollment during that time that is or is not being counted, we're going to show here. You would see grade level, gender, race, Hispanic, how many school days. So again, the window is at 20 days, so we should see 20 right now. How many membership days did this kid have? Should be 20. How many STC days if it was an STC student? Now, again, these membership days, now I have to think. Charles, I might have to get you back up. Is this just the membership total it sees for the 20? Is this per kid? So if they enrolled halfway through, you're going to see 10. I think it's the per kid. Oh, let me figure out if I can unmute you in the way this webinar is set up. Hide that. Go here. See, Charles. Oh, you're jumping around here. I'll make you a co-host. See if will that let you unmute, Charles?
It sure does. So
Yeah.
the membership days column right there, that is how many of the 20 days that student has been enrolled.
Okay.
So
For a
if I
specific
enrolled
student.
on the third day of the window, then I would have an 18 in there.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to double check on that because sometimes even I second guess myself on those. That's why we're doing this webinar and recording it. So if you have kids that were only there for 10 days of the window, then you're going to see 10 out of the 20. So you should see that based on, again, that enrollment record like I showed you at Mickey at the beginning of it. STC days, how many days they are attended, how many they have been absent. So again, those two should total to 20 and you can kind of see kid per kid. ADM, ADA, the enrolled date. So I'm looking at that first day that you have in that record. What enrollment reason? If they have been withdrawn, we can see what that withdrawal reason you have entered inside of there. Enrollment status, enrollment day, exit type, promotion retained indicator. Here we go into some, we get into all kind of different indicators on your kids. What base cohort do you have entered for those students? Does the student have a schedule? This is something to come in sometimes and filter by. I heavily rely on these filters to go in there and look to slice and dice your data to find anomalies or anybody or subpops that you're wanting to get through. Gifted, enrichment, spec ed, down here in the second is if we keep scrolling right, more special ed information, all of those important pieces, career tech, EL, all the English learner information, migrant information, keep scrolling right. Many of these check boxes on the demographic side, whether they have a single parent, other barriers, have they been marked as homeless, are they foreign exchange, what is the home language? Are they immigrant? Are they first year? Any of the immigrant information. Have they been marked as a 21st century program student? County of residence, the code and the county. Have they been marked reside out of district? What their district of residence is inside of PowerSchool that has been marked. So on the enrollment record, there is a district of residence. So that would be where that's at. Zip code, zip +4. Title I information, lunch information. So again, on a school by school level, you can pretty much pull any report that you want to outside of here. I just had somebody say they can't hear. Did I mute for everyone? Please tell me I didn't. Can anybody hear me? Oh, perfect. Keep scrolling right. I see more information. Military information, foster, are they marked 504? Are they an athlete? Have they taken the alternate placement? Are they a non-traditional student? When is the collection end date? So this tells you when your 20th day was for your district. The student DCID value or DCID value, however you want to say it. Full-time, virtual, remote, again, those learning preferences. Are they at a school where enrollment is actually allowed for them to be? Are they included in counts? So here you want to know, is this student being included in your accounts for funding? Right there. There's your column. So one of the things you might want to go do is go find this column and say who is not checked and go find out why. It could be that their dates of enrollment are not in that 20-day window. They wouldn't be. It could be they have an error. And if they do, notice we have a checkbox right here that says has errors. So you can bet if they have an error over here and this is checked, this over here for included in counts is not going to be checked. So you can go down to the student level, very granular view to see all of this information to know exactly what is being reported for you at the state level. It's a lot of information. There are millions of data points on children nowadays. And fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, everything revolves around data. Everything comes from a data point, whether it's funding, whether it's achievement, whether it's you seeing what you need to do for the kiddos tomorrow, it's all coming on the data that you are placing inside of this program that we have. So it's very important that somebody in the district is laying eyes on this. And sometimes it's more than just one person, it's somebody's. Everybody needs to take ownership of their data. Schools need to look at it, district offices need to look at it. I would say that you need people in official state collections looking at this to make sure you get an accurate snapshot, you get the funding you deserve, the funding that you need to do the best things for our students. So what are our impacts? Well, you know that this 20-day report is going to be what your funding is based off of for next fiscal year. So what we take in this snapshot on the third Friday in October is what's going to determine your funding for next school year. One of the big things a lot of people don't realize is that these are also the numbers that the AHSAA uses for their reclassification. So for every, was it 2 years now that they look at it? I forget. They look at your new numbers. And it's only certain grade levels that they look. They don't look across all grade levels, but to see, do you stay in 7A, 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A? And that means a lot to some programs. So you really want to make sure that everybody has a vested investment in your data because it does have multiple avenues of impact. So that takes you through the state reporting, what this mysterious 20-day fall extract, 20-day after Labor Day, however you want to say it, report is constructed. It tells you where to look inside of AIM to find this information and how to understand what information is actually showing here for you. So I hope that this has helped. If you have any questions, y'all feel free. Shoot me an email. Charles and I have, we work diligently with districts to help them find issues or reasons for anomalies so that you can get the best representation of your data. The coaches will also be putting on those webinars so that will help you get through those errors that you may not know how to address. It's very important to have your registrars, have your people who are the ones entering this data in on your students, make sure they can see their errors or make sure you're communicating. If you're a district that has an STC, please make sure that your districts are communicating to that STC center because they can't see this. Any errors they have that impact their funding as well. We all want to be good stewards of our data, and we're all here to help as a collective unit. So I hope you have found this informational. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.